Hey, good evening, folks. I want to first off apologize for my absence again at training. I know, but things have kind of blown up here with my job, and next couple weeks are going to be pretty busy for me. But boss called last minute and asked me if I could come to Michigan. So right now I am currently just outside of Detroit. So hoping I don't get shot, but I may go into the city here in a bit and see if I can go catch some fires because Detroit's got fires. But anyways, I just wanted to take a couple minutes here. Fortunately, with my job, I've been able to learn a lot more about thermal imaging cameras, and it goes hand in hand with what you guys are going to be training on tonight as far as search and VEIS. So just to cut things back and take a look at where we've been, we've all went over VEIS, and we've all got an understanding of that topic. The big thing I want everyone to be thinking about as far as VEIS, when to do it, when not to do it. There's a lot that goes into this. And if you guys remember back to our conversation whenever Chief McKee came in, Brendan McKee that is, the McKee brothers, but he talked about going down that basement stairwell, and it's like going down the barrel of a loaded gun. VEIS is very similar to that. In the fire service in the United States, no one has been killed during VEIS operations yet. Yet being the key word. I want everybody to be thinking that the VEIS isn't the end-all be-all tactic that some people make it out to be. It's really not. It's situation dependent, just like every other tactic we do in the fire service. VEIS, which vent, enter, isolate, search, right? We're doing this one room at a time. We're going to vent the place, break the window out completely, monitor our conditions. How's the smoke coming out? Is it turbulent? Is it jet black pumping out at us like nobody's business? What are we really looking at? Did the person on the street who lived in the house say, hey, my kid's in there, my mom's in there, whatever the case may be? Do we know why we're going to that window first? That's the biggest question. What is directing you to that point? And the second thing is can we get to the door in enough time to shut down that flow path? So what we're doing is, especially if you've got a hose team entering, which hopefully we do at that point, got a hose team entering through the front door. We take out a window, what's that creating? We're creating that flow path that we always talk about, right? Getting inside that flow path and being in the middle of it is bad. It's not going to be good for anybody. That fire is coming to us, no matter whether it's on the first floor, second floor, it doesn't matter where it's at, that fire will come to us, I promise. We're introducing that oxygen that fire needs, and it's just going to push it right to us. So that's one of the biggest things. Size up is key on VEIS. If we pull up and we realize that, hey, we don't have fire showing, and this is a vent-limited fire, we need to be thinking, is VEIS the right thing to do right now? Do we need to be going into this environment without having a hose line in place first? That's the question you got to ask yourself when you pull up and somebody says, hey, my kid's up there, whoever's in there, they're in this room. I know they're in this room. We got to think, can we safely do this? Are we going to be able to take this window out? And how long do we have before the fire comes to us? So we all know that houses, especially in our district, they're sometimes chopped up. There's a good possibility that bedroom may not even have a door on it. So we got to be thinking that if we get in there and we can't find that door, we've got literally seconds to make a decision. We got to pull out, right? So that's some of the things I want you to really be thinking about. Obviously, VEIS is a two-person operation. All right, you got to have somebody enter the structure, all right, and do the search. Isolate the door and do the search. You got to have somebody at the window there in case you do have a victim, and also to monitor those conditions for you. Thermal imaging camera is going to be key in this operation. So obviously we have the Draeger 7000, two Draeger 7000s, and a 9000 on our ladder. All right, good cameras, nothing wrong with them. But understanding, and just like we went through with Andy Starnes a couple times in his class, we've got to understand what those cameras are capable of doing and what they're not capable of doing. So we need to be mindful of a go no go situation. All right, we take that window out, we scan it with a tick. All right, we need to be looking. What are our no-go situations? If it's over 500 degrees coming out the window, we better not be going in there because we don't have enough time our bunker gear will fail before we can get to that door and isolate this thing. So we need to be thinking about that. The second thing we need to be thinking of is room orientation as far as the camera goes. That second person is key, all right, because we've all seen bedrooms where there's toys, there's dressers, there's everything. It's a mess, right? It's going to be very hard to navigate that. We can speed up our time on VEIS with a thermal imaging camera. Understanding how our cameras work, we know that they're not going to start showing color till 370 degrees, right? At 570 degrees, they're not going to show color. At 370 degrees, they're going to kick to low sensitivity. Really, at the end of the day, what you need to know about high sensitivity, low sensitivity, is that when that green triangle in the top right or top left-hand corner pops up, that means we're in low sensitivity. We are 370 degrees plus, all right? So we've got 370 degrees to 570 degrees. You're not going to see any color. You'll see 45 different shades of gray, all right? And I don't know about you guys, but I can only differentiate between about 2 shades of gray. So we need to be thinking about that. You may not see color. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's safe, right? Because we could be over 500 degrees and see nothing but gray. So we need to be looking for that triangle. When you see that triangle pop up, we need to be thinking, where am I at temperature-wise, all right? How is this going to affect me, and do we have enough time to get to that door? How big of a house is it? You know, are the bedrooms going to be 10 by 10, or are they going to be 20 by 20? You know, that's something we're going to need to be sizing up on our walk around, and as each and every firefighter is walking up. Where are the bedrooms at? You know, look at the window placement, how big the windows are, right? Things like that. 9 times out of 10, you go in through a window, what's straight across from you? It's going to be a door, right? The key is you don't start that search on VEIS until you get that door shut off. If you get out there and there's no door, time to back out, all right? So some things like that we got to be thinking about. The person at the window has got to have that camera. One thing we got to keep in mind is, what can we do with the Draeger camera? I stole this from Sean, by the way, so he doesn't know, don't tell him. But the Draeger camera, we can turn it on, and I can turn around, and if I cock it sideways, what am I doing? I'm opening up my field of view, all right? So I can see the floor and the ceiling now, right? Instead of holding it like this, where I'm cutting off half that floor. If I kick it to the side, I'm going to be able to see from floor to ceiling. What am I looking for as far as a victim goes on this camera? Keep in mind, the coolest thing in that room is going to be the victim. It's going to be the things on the floor, right? That's where our victims majority of the time going to be, unless they're on a bed or something like that. They didn't wake up, whatever the case may be. So we need to be thinking about that. They're not going to show up vividly like we'd see if we turned on the thermal imaging camera and scanned it around the training room real quick and looked at each and every one. We can see each and every one in that camera very vividly because they're the warmest thing in the room, right? So you put that into a superheated environment. Now the victim is now the coolest thing. So we got to be looking for black blobs. Quite honestly, is what a victim is going to look like inside a thermal imaging camera. Tonight you will be able to see that in the training house. Scott and Marcus, they're going to go over this a lot more with you, and they're going to do a bang-up job. But you're going to be able to see it because they're going to use ice bags tonight. So that's going to show that the lowest temperature in that room, like a victim would be, is going to be that ice bag. That's your victim tonight. So you got to be thinking about that. Don't expect to turn on this camera and be able to pinpoint a human or even a firefighter for that matter really easily. As we get into this building as firefighters, our gear is going to start absorbing all that heat. We're going to start becoming warmer and warmer and warmer, right? So you're not going to be able to vividly see us very well. A good way to identify a firefighter in a fire is their air pack. Why is that? Our air bottles, what do they do as we breathe them down? Especially if you get to huffing and puffing on that bottle really good, it becomes cold, right? Sometimes they'll even ice up on you. So that's what you got to be looking for. That black cylinder, all right? And you'll see it better than you'll see an actual firefighter. You'll see that black cylinder because of the temperature difference between the firefighter and the SCBA bottle. So that's something you can always keep in mind whenever you get into that hot environment, which hopefully we've got a hose line in place. Again, all these tactics that we do are dependent on fire behavior and getting water on the fire. Bar none, if we put the fire out, what happens? Problems go away, right? So that's why in VEIS it's such a different tactic as far as we may not always have a hose line in place, but if we don't have a hose line in place, we better be getting one there really fast, right? We understand how fast it grows nowadays, and not just nowadays, in anything, our fuels have changed. Everything has changed as far as the fire service goes. So we don't have all this time to dilly-dally around. Once we open up that door, we create that flow path, or we break that window, it could be seconds, and we have fire on top of us. So please, 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 don't take VEIS and say, this is how we're going to search every house, because that's not feasible. We all know as well as anybody else does, in most other departments in the same staffing, paid on call situation, we don't know how many people we have showing up all the time. So again, the focus has got to be fire attack. We not to write off a victim by any means, but we've got to get water on that fire. We get water on the fire, things are going to get better for our victims. All right, and that may be a transitional attack. All right, that may be going straight to the seat of the fire, whatever the case may be. Cool that environment off and make us safer and help our victims out. Right. That's what we got to be thinking about. Again, that loaded gun, and I want everybody to be thinking about that on every fire we go to. Anytime we open up a door, open up a window, all right, we are now in the barrel of that loaded gun, right? We don't know when it's going to go off. Same deal as coming down a stairwell into a basement fire. A window breaks out as you're coming halfway down, you're in a bad spot. I hope you got your hose line and you're ready to go for that. But just things like that. Traditional search, all right? We all know we don't have a truck company. We don't have a designated engine company that are always going to be there, all right? We do have a truck, but we don't have a per se truck company. A lot of times our truck is going to be our engine company. That's their goal 9 times out of 10 is going to be getting water on this fire as fast as possible. So as we get into the traditional style search, right hand, left hand, more than likely if it's an in-town fire, 1237 is your engine. 1218 is going to be your truck company or search team per se. They're going to follow up behind the hose line. All right, I do not advocate, and probably never will advocate for a department our size to send a search team in before a hose line on a traditional search. All right, remember what we're talking about with the traditional search. Hey, somebody's in here, but I have no clue where they're at. Hey, there's cars in the driveway, but we don't know if there's actually people in here. That's kind of the circumstances we're going for with a traditional search. We're going to be doing that behind a hose line. All right. Keep in mind that if things in a perfect world, which we don't live in, but in a perfect world, that third person that's in with that first initial hose team, they're going to have a thermal imaging camera with them. Whoever's coming on 1218 to back them up better have a thermal imaging camera with them also for the search team, right? But as that first person's in there, the officer or senior firefighter, whoever it may be that day, keep in mind of turning it as, and especially since I'm in Detroit right now, gangster style. We're going to hold the camera sideways, so we're going to get that full field of view, floor to ceiling, right? We're still going to be able to monitor our temperatures up high, but we're also going to be able to pick up those black blobs that might or might not resemble a human. It's all going to be as far as how the temperatures are inside that structure. So some things to be thinking about there. As you're in there as that, what I'll call safety officer behind the hose team, not only are you directing where the stream needs to go, but you're also going to be scanning for victims, all right? And if you see that black blob over there, hey, I'm going to check this out real quick, and make sure you're conveying that with your team. Again, communication is key in everything we do. So those are just some things I want to make sure we're hitting on as far as the thermal imaging camera goes. Great tool, not the end-all be-all. We still need to do the traditional search of a right hand, left hand whenever we are able to. But don't forget, we got to keep ourselves safe. And by having this thermal imaging camera, 9 times out of 10, we will find that victim faster. So that's what this is all about. Our job is life safety, of course. All right, and we've got to make sure that we're giving that victim every opportunity to survive. All right, if we don't, we're setting ourselves up for failure, and quite honestly, we're not going to do any good at our job. And then if we go into property preservation, this camera is going to help us effectively put a fire out a lot quicker, all right, than just going in there and not being able to see anything and just spraying water just for shits and grins. But so, anyways, Scott and Marcus, they're going to take over, and they're gonna beat you guys up as far as the search and VEIS. But just I wanted to make sure we're always thinking, all right, and that's the whole thing. There is no one tactic that I can use on every single fire and make it work right. So we got to have multiple things in our toolbox, and that's all a traditional search and VEIS is. All right. There may be that night where we pull up on a range style house, all right, single story, and we may VEIS every bedroom in that house from the outside before we do a traditional search with a hose line going in on top of it. Again, we've got to be thinking, what is the right tactic for the situation we currently have? So anyways, that you've heard enough out of me. Thank you guys so much, and I'll be seeing you soon. So I'll be back from Michigan late Wednesday night, so we'll get back on a better schedule here soon. So anyways, be safe. Thanks, guys.